Our first player confirmed in the group stages qualified forwards as Harstum gets the victory there over Lambo, as Lambo will now move down to the lower bracket. Now we move on to our second semi-final in bracket number 1, which will be indeed Stats going up against Bly. But before we do get to that, I have to the right of me, of course, we have Mr. Pig, Mr. Maynard, and Rotterdam, of course. And I want to ask these guys overall, as much as Harstum, yes, has advanced forwards, I think there's still light at the end of the tunnel for someone like Lambo down in the lower bracket. What do you think?
I think definitely there is a chance, but it just became a whole lot harder. Suddenly he's got to play against a whole bunch of different players. He's shown his Zerg versus Zerg is very strong, and I think that's really what he's hoping for, is a couple more Zerg opponents making it through there, maybe playing Bly in the final match, and that will give him a good shot at still progressing. As
you can see, here is the bracket with Harstum confirming himself, and we have our second quarterfinal, semi-final even, I should say, in the upper side. Meanwhile, down towards the lower portion of the bracket, things are going on down here. So we do have TLO currently going up against Dana, and then the winner of that will face off against Lambo. So things are kind of gathering momentum here.
And there are a lot of Zergs, so there's probably going to be some quick matches as well.
Right. But then I want to ask you about Harstum's potential chances going into the group stage. Who knows where he's going to end up? Because all the groups are monster mode. So
I mean, I remember Showtime his tweet. He got Dark in Innovation, I believe, and he's like, "God, what's up with these easy groups over here?" You know? I'm gonna get some real opponents. It really depends who he goes up against. But you know, if Kev really feels it, he can go very far. I absolutely believe he could make a top 3 in a group, but he has to play better than he's done so far today. Like, that sounds weird, right? Because, hey, he made it through the open bracket, only dropped a single map. That seems really good. It has to be better. If you really want to make it further, if you want to go into the playoffs of the main event, he has to step it up. That we all know he's capable of. He was good today, but he needs to be better.
The Kevin bond is strong overall, though, right?
Of course, it always is. I mean, we've got a German Kevin Observer, we've got Kevin Advancing, Kevin at the desk, Kevin Casting every now and then. We should just all rename ourselves to Kevin.
All the Kevins. Perfect.
That seems confusing.
Just a little bit. All right, so let's get into what we have coming up now. It's going to be Stats versus Bly. These two guys, obviously Bly, at the beginning of Legacy of the Void, kind of took a lot of people by storm, but then you've got someone like Stats, who is an absolute monster right now.
I think this is either going to be really awesome or really ugly, and that's all I have to say about it.
Fair play. Any few points before we go to the casters, guys?
I echo that as well. Bly's been historically a pretty aggressive Zerg, and Stats is a pretty great all-round Protoss, so it's going to be some quick, dirty games, I think.
Pick.
I've got to just voice what these guys are saying here. Stats has just got to watch out. Hopefully he's seen some strange things. Maybe he's been practicing NA ladder a little bit, because that will prepare him for the beast that is Bly.
He has, I confirm. I played him. Did not go well for me.
Oh, sorry, Kevin. All right, well, thank you very much, guys. We'll check in with you later on down the line for maybe more games. For now, though, we are going to head over to Stats and Bly to see who advances to the group stage of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice.
What's up, guys? We are moments away from jumping into this game, Stats versus Bly, and I do have to agree with what Roddy was talking about back there. I think it's either going to be really close or it's going to be very one-sided, and I think Stats wins.
He used other words, though. He says it's going to be beautiful or ugly.
And I interpreted it as that. That's what I think he meant.
Yeah, that's what he meant, yeah, exactly. I feel like Bly, if he can somehow surprise Stats and gain some momentum or even kill him right off, obviously he's going to be able to do well. But if Stats is on point, if he's scouting what Bly's shenanigans are, which, I mean, we assume Bly is going to play a little bit crazy, he's going to be able to get a solid win.
All right, let's do this. We are going into game number 1 with Stats versus Bly. In the bottom right, in the red, possibly the best Protoss in the world, he is Stats. Based god. A based god. In the bottom left, in the blue, our Zerg player. Can he manage to beat Stats? He is Bly!
A relentless Bly still around after all these years and still relevant, which is very hard over such a long period of time to always have been so competitive. At least he's quite the online grinder. He plays in a lot of these online tournaments, has won a lot of money through those, but usually has a much harder time in these offline tournaments, when, especially when playing against the top players. And I mean, it doesn't really get any better than Stats. who I think is one of the favorites to quite easily make top 4, maybe even the grand finals. So the fact that he's here in the starting bracket is actually very scary for anybody who has to face him.
You know, one thing about Stats is I feel like he's always improving. I don't feel like he's dipped down yet. And if he gets any better, and it seems like he's been growing at that rate, then I can't imagine him not winning this if he can keep this up. By the way, doesn't that look like Pig at the bottom of our screen? Is that Pig down there?
It could be, very well could be.
Yeah. The resemblance is uncanny, guys. Sorry, it had to be said.
It did say be core strong, not just roaches.
Roaches, so many roaches and ravagers. Sorry, Pig warged into my body for a second. Sorry about that. I'm back. I'm here. So we got these two great players. I'm hoping this is close, Todd.
Yeah.
Because it might not be. And there's really no shame on Bly if he loses pretty handedly here, because Stats is one of the scariest Protosses around. And it's not like he has this one core strength where you really got to be watching out for this, this build. Just be on top of your macro or watch out for his cheats. Stats can kind of do everything, and that's usually the worst nightmare when you're facing up against a Protoss player. They've got a range.
Yeah, as of late, I would say Stats has been the best Protoss in the world. I don't think it's being too crazy to say that. Like, some people might want to argue it, but he's been consistent. And again, his performance in GSL, being able to come back against Innovation to go into the semifinals,
was so sick,
it's
man.
so impressive to me. That's even if they were to face in this tournament here, I would very much look forward to this matchup, even though historically Innovation is still very far ahead and has a good winning record against Stats.
Okay, so here comes the first Adept trying to apply some pressure, force out a few more Zerglians, and ideally do a little bit of scouting. Although it does look like the Queen was already there to try to preempt that. Are there enough Lings that he's not going to let that finish? Okay. And he goes ahead and backs off. Definitely don't want to overextend early against a player like Bly. We have Banelings, though, coming down right now for our Zerg. Yeah,
this is very early here of a Baneling Nest. I wonder if Bly wants to be aggressive, or if it is for defense against Resonating Glaives Adepts. It's a really nice scout for Bly, actually. Because Stats go for a Stalker like this, it's gonna hit or miss whether you're gonna send an Overlord and be able to spot. Look, he's making Zerglings. Yeah. Bly knows that the Dark Shrine's on the way. And Stats, I mean, obviously you still go for this there. The additional gateway is now gonna be thrown down. Bly's just gonna go for it. This is like we expected.
Well, this is pretty smart. Ideally, he wants to do the crippling blow before the Dark Shrine is really up. The Baneling's Nest is moments away from finishing. This is going to come down to a split-second reaction here, really, from Stats. And if he doesn't handle this correctly, he will probably lose.
I think this could be genius there from Bly, because when you go for this, you save your guys for the Dark Templars. You don't go for Sentries.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely.
You have overcharges, but that's all you really have as far as units go. You're not going to have that many because you're going for the War Prism as well, which is not going to help against Zerglings and Banelings.
Here we go. The Banelings have come in. The pylon does remain charged, so the final Baneling detonates. It's just a Stalker and an Adept to hold this off. The Warp Prism is not going to be helpful now.
Knock, knock, who's there? A ton of Zerglings and Banelings as Bly is giving a
ton of Zerglings and Banelings. Bly who? Todd. Sorry. All right, no, seriously. These Lings are coming in here. He is rolling over Stats. I think Stats may end up losing this game. The DT is now out, but of course the Lings, with speed on their side, can continue to rotate to anywhere these DTs are not defending.
Yeah, this hadn't done enough yet, but now it is. He's killing more probes. He's going to keep on streaming in there with Zerglings. Did Stats rewall? Yes, he did. Actually, this is huge here. If he can defend and keep on defending against this, he's going to be fine, but that pylon is on the verge of being broken down. And if more Lings get in, it's going to be a disaster here for Stats, who needs to preserve his probe counts.
Okay, more Lings are coming forward right now. Again, there is a DT out, but the Lings with that speed could just try to avoid wherever that DT is. We have a second DT that's being shuttled in a Warp Prism in an attempt to do some counter damage. Let's see how that turns out. Meanwhile, more Lings coming in here. They are, again, going for the probes. Two Banelings headed up. Probes going northbound, and it looks like they will manage to escape the damage from that Baneling, but right now Stats is not mining very much.
And the Dark Templar across the map, I think, went for the main of Bly. I didn't see a Spore in production. He's actually went completely all in. What?
Oh my God.
How could he not get a single Spore?
Oh my God.
He's just escorting this Dark Templar to the Spore on the third base as well.
Okay,
he needs to surround that.
Stats gonna get this.
He needs to surround that with his own units.
Okay, he's going for the Spore.
It's going to finish, actually, in a second.
Yeah. It looks like he's decided he can't do any more extra damage, so he's going for these Queens. Looks like one queen will be assassinated. Now targeting drones. These guys trying to multitask the best they can. The Warp Prism over here to try to help defend. Stats hanging on by a thread, though, back here in his main.
Oh, and he saves the Dark Templar across the map. This is so good here from Stats, who's sort of holding on here back at home. The Walker count's pretty even, 14 to 13. What a slugfest of a first game here we're getting between these two.
This game is an all-out brawl. Looks like he has 2 DTs now morphing into an Archon.
Bly passed the DT test, but is he going to pass the Archon test?
Well, dude, I mean, right now, the tech here for Bly is so unsophisticated, and Archon alone is actually really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know what he's supposed to do against this. It feels like he would need so many banings.
This cotton ball of doom, Todd, coming forward, narrowly escaping there.
And he's going to be regenerating all the shields as well.
Yeah.
Both of these other bases not mining here from Bly. Stats, he got surprised. It was a good build from Bly against what Stats was doing, but it feels like it's not going to be enough somehow. Stats is just a beast.
Stats is going to have to hang on to this next bait like a test. Nice force fields right over there, and they are not able to bleed through. It almost looks like Bly has a screen where it's not supposed to be. He's not managing this attack too well. Stats able to engineer a comeback in a game like this. That is crazy. Morlings come forward, but they will not pay for themselves. I think Bly is processing a possible loss this game. We see once again, the Archon being microed. What are you going to do against that, Todd?
There's not much he can do, really. Like I said, he would have needed to have maybe a lot of queens, but it was such a low econ game here from Bly. He went completely all in, and Stats was just solid enough.
Todd, I've waited my whole life. Can you just say this with me, please? 3, 2, 1. Look at the supply. Yes, the supply. It was just as good as I thought it was going to be, guys. Bly's supply is a disaster. Protoss, when they get crippled early on, they can be a little bit more robust in a comeback. As long as they have the right tech at their disposal. But Bly basically opted out of tech in an attempt to end this game in about 6 minutes here.
I mean, he committed super heavily. Oh man, that's all the GG we get? Come on.
Nah, look, there's an art to the GGs here, okay? Like, that one, it was kind of already done, so you kind of just GG it out, you know? But I got to say...
Your next nickname change on BNet is going to be Art of GG?
Art of GG, man. That's my letter. That's my letter, Todd. Okay, look, I don't blame Bly for trying that strat. And to be frank, it actually almost worked. But Stats is so sick, man. He's just so good.
That was bold to say, I'm going to skip on making any drones behind this. I'm just going to commit everything I have to this. Try and do enough economic damage that you propel yourself far ahead enough that you can actually drone up behind this and be in a great economical position, and then kind of play standard from there. But Stats is just so solid. Like, build other. I mean, I would have died 10 times over here in this game if I was him. If I was in his shoes when the Bailing and Zerglings hit.
And you know, to be honest, I don't think it was a bad strat call from Bly. I think Bly perhaps looked a bit visibly shaken here. But let's see if he can recoup here. Guys, how's it going on the analysis desk?
Going well, thank you, Mr. Tasteless, as we do have few games, maybe just one actually currently going on here at the desk at the moment. We have Snoot and Mamba currently going on in the hands of Pig. Pig, what can you tell us about it?
Snoot here really just showing his class so far. Getting ahead quite early in the Ling-Baneling wars, was able to cancel the third base of Mamba, and then he went to 58 drones versus 38 drones. Not something you see too often in a ZVZ. A 20 worker advantage. Mamba here going for a bit of a desperate roach push, but he is way down in pretty much every regard. So Snoot here building up a massive roach army. He's looking poised to crush this and then take this game 1 lead in the next couple of seconds.
We put him on the best game, didn't we? Roaches versus roaches.
Roaches!
I mean, that's what he's here for. Yeah. Drogo didn't want to cast this tournament, he had to play it, so we had to find another resident ZVZ expert and decided to go with Pig.
That's true, that's true. But let's talk about what we just witnessed on the mainstream as well, of course, as we did have that Stats versus Bly game go down.
I said it was going to be also more ugly. It was both in the same game.
True.
It was actually pretty fun. I mean, Bly going for a very typical Bly build, and bailing busting, and actually getting through. And I really felt at one point, I was like, I actually think he's doing enough here. I think that he's going to be able to get the job done. And then I was like, all right, Bly, like it's looking decent now. Your links are very fast. It's hard for Dark Templars and even Adepts to catch up with these links that will just keep running around and picking up probes. Just get a Spore. And I was like, anytime right now, Bly. It's like, and then I see the prism, and like Pig already said 10 seconds before, he's like, Stats gonna win this game. I was like, I was like, get a spore. I was like, okay, you're right. Like, he's not getting a spore. But it was fun, though. It was a fun game.
Where's the fine line you draw as a Zerg when it comes to putting on that kind of aggression, but then kind of stepping away from it and trying to play your own game behind it? Is there no line, or do you just keep going? Let's think about it outside of the world of Bly, where he does just keep going.
It's super hard to say. You know, the sort of build that Bly went for, it's so tricky because he builds the third hatchery, and it adds pretty much nothing to the sort of push that he's doing there. He's super all in, but he's doing a bunch of things which are selling the story of, hey, I can totally play normal, and it gives him a little bit of a stronger transition out of it. But building spore crawlers to cover 3 bases off 22 workers, I agree with Roddy. There's a small window there where Bly could transition out of that, but to find that in the midst of the chaos while you're microing Zerglings and Banelings around 2 mineral lines, it's very difficult to find, even for an experienced player like Bly.
It obviously is very difficult, and it's not something you want to invest in, but you simply don't have a choice. Because if you don't get it, and that War Prism leaves, the game is over. So it's either making that very difficult decision, or you're just saying like, all right, now I'm not going to be able to mine anymore. And the Lynx were never going to kill everything on the other side of the map. He had enough to pick off more workers and do more economic damage, but never enough to just straight up kill all the probes, kill the adepts, somehow avoid the DT all the time. I mean, that's impossible, right?
Maynard, do you see a glimmer of hope here for Bly?
I mean, I saw a glimmer of hope in Game 1, so why not Game 2, James?
Yeah, why not? Why not, I suppose. All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll check in with you later on. For now, though, we're going to head over to game number 2 here between Stats and Bly to see who moves on to the group stage.
We're moments away from beginning game number 2. It was a tough loss back there for Bly. Do you think he's going to do anything pretty risky, pretty cheesy like that again?
It's very hard to predict with Bly. More often than not, it's going to be the case, but a great prophet, philosopher once said the cheesiest thing a cheesy player can do is actually macro.
That's true. That was Arfucius, the great philosopher. And it's true. Sometimes if you're playing against somebody where you think there's no way they can beat you in a standard game, so you're just ready for every kind of cheese, and you're double checking everything, and then they actually do a macro game, and you maybe overcompensated, trying to not lose early. That's one way to get ahead. But Stats is such a macro beast at the same time.
And with Stats, it's super interesting too, because we don't really know how he goes about like playing this matchup. Like, does he actually know who Bly is and how he plays? Like, I don't. Yeah, at Nation Wars, you know, Team Korea, they did these interviews, and SOS was like, I don't even know what country is qualified for this tournament and what players they have on. Like, that was his prep for the tournament. He was just confident in like what he was going to do, and I feel like for a lot of Koreans that travel abroad, that's the case as well. So
I think also the tournaments like this, these big marathon events, it's a very different feel from a lot of the games they're used to playing in Korea. You know, like a GSL, you have 1 to 2 weeks to prepare for one specific player. IEM, that's a completely different beast. In the bottom left, in the red, with a 1-0 lead, he is Stats.
Playing for Team Splice.
And in the bottom right, in the blue, he needs to win this game and the next. He is Bly.
On Team Expert.
So what the hell is Bly going to do this time? I really wonder.
I wonder if he actually knows himself when he goes into these games. He might just be like, oh, okay, I've reached 200 gas, like it's time to make a decision. Almost like a Protoss.
Some players kind of don't know what they're going to go for until you know, they actually get into the game. Some people have a strat they've completely mapped out for weeks. They're not going to deviate from that.
He proxy hatcheries across the map actually to try and block that off. Stats build actually counters this decently, I think, with a gateway down the ramp. He can just chrono boost out Zealots. You don't have to overreact and get Forge and stuff. You can just pull probes like this. And because he did it from the start, when the hatchery started, the hatchery, while it's building, is actually going to lose a ton of hit points. And then the Zealots will finish it off, usually. You need to put the exact right amount of probes, which I think like he put like 7 or something right now.
There's an art. I think he sent the first 4, and then he totals it out with 7 a little bit later on.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. Maybe not lucky for Bly, though. This game, it looks like Stats is completely unfazed so far by anything that Bly is going to try to do. And there's a reason why you don't see this build all the time, guys, is a lot of times at the highest level of play, if the other player, in this case the Protoss, is responding perfectly, the Protoss almost always wins. So let's see. He does force the cancel. The drone is now rotating around. He's trying to see if he can't get a plant here. And, oh, he gets the hatchery down there.
I don't think that's worth it, because there's going to be a very quick cancel there when whichever other unit comes out, he's maybe an adept behind this. Yeah,
I'm actually not sure. It's interesting. He's got it in a spot where it does deny the Nexus.
I guess he only lost 75 for this, so...
Is he going to go back in for another? Can we get a triple? Let's do it. I've got my hatchery punch card on me right here. All right, no, he's not going to go for it. The Nexus goes up, and...
it's very hard to be ready for the counter-aggression against this.
This drone is having an identity crisis, man. He tried to become a hatchery twice and quit both times and then thought about becoming a gas.
And before he walks back home and becomes a Hydra's den.
This drone's having a midlife crisis, Todd. This guy's going to buy a Ferrari pretty soon. I mean, this is quite a drone experience. I don't know if Bly's
economy will help him afford it because usually it doesn't go that high.
That's true. He's going to be buying it on credit. That's not going to go too well. We have right now Bly attempting to transition into a more ordinary game, getting 3 hatches over here.
I'm surprised the Adept actually shaded out. I was mentioning that it's very hard to handle that counter-aggression from an Adept when you open with such low eco from Bly, where he went for like the double proxy hatch that he had to cancel, and then he do a third base. So I think Stats just wanted to play that safe and actually keep his units alive for now, and then later down the line maybe do like a 7 Adept push, because right now he's going for the Twilight Council and we don't see a Robo, so it's not going to be a Darktron I think this time, just pure mass Adepts with Resonating Glaives.
I'm under the impression this timing should work out for Stats. It just seems like Zerg got staggered in his movement so much by trying to do a strat like this, and I don't really think Stats could have done a better job of holding that. Maybe he could have denied the second hatch in a perfect world, but I feel like this should be pretty tough for Bly to hold off. Zergs can lose to this strat even if they don't.
I'm wondering what Bly's up to actually, because he went for an Evolution Chamber, so maybe he might want to drop. And he's mining quite a bit of gas, so he might just go for an upgrade here. Yeah, he's just going to want to drop here, I think, in his main base, but Stats completely ready for that, especially after game number 1. Like, you want to be extra careful. Like, you just played a Zerg that Bailing busted you.
Ooh. He sees. He knows.
Seeing is half the battle.
It's knowing is half the battle. That's from G.I. Joe, Todd. Okay? I've used all of my childhood experience to turn me into a great caster. So he's going to go for the drop in here. The style that Bly's playing, it doesn't really have a lot of longevity. Like, the longer we're in this game, if Bly's not doing incredibly crippling blows, I just feel like Stats is going to gain so much momentum here.
This is like super sad Overlord drop where like it was spotted and you're like, ugh. Like, what do I do? Do I go home? Nah, I'm still going to go for it, but go all the way around, which is going to take 3 days. Like,
yeah, it's like, what do you do?
Frodo's going to reach Mordor before this Overlord actually drops units. Like, what is this?
Basically. Glaives are up. So this is a pin maneuver here by Bly where Protoss may be intimidated into not leaving his base because the drop will come in and there'll just be a lot of damage done. But the fact that he knows about the drop, and of course, with a slow Overlord drop, you really need to surprise him with it, because just watching it come in, it's so easy to react to. Yeah, see, this is sad, man. I feel kind of bad for Bly. This is
I'm getting a flashback to what Roddy said. Like, this is going to be maybe ugly, because right now it's been so far for Bly. Like, nothing is going his way.
Yeah.
The hatchery block was just countered perfectly. Like, it feels like I don't know what you have to do to beat Stats at this point. Like, he's just solid against.
He's just so well-rounded, man.
Yeah. He really is. Like, if this was mixed martial arts, it'd be good at everything. He would have no weakness. Wrestling, kickboxing.
No, he's got all the, he's got all any kind of situation he basically can wiggle out of it. And so we have the Warp Prism coming out here, and this is some counter pressure now from Stats. This is also in some ways meant to just kind of keep the Zerg a little bit more honest back here. He's going to come in here and try to get some of these drones. I'm actually surprised. I thought he would have more here to defend this, but these Adepts are doing way more damage than I had expected. Actually,
whoa! Ooh,
nice!
These Adepts still can do some damage, though, especially if they stay away from these roaches there. And Stats on this map, it feels like a lot of the time, he likes to go for that big push with Immortals, a lot of gateway units, some sentries most of the time, and it's kind of like, in a way, repetitive. And in this game, I mean, he's already doing very well, and I don't think that this is going to change just because he's predictable, but this is setting up a nice story for the rest of the tournament. If he was to qualify there and then he ends up playing guys like Dark or Solar, how well would he be able to do if he uses that style again and then they expect it?
Well, Bly's interested in doing an attack, but he's making these Ravagers right here in the middle of the map. Protoss engaging. The Ravagers finish, but will they get boxed in? They do by the force fields. And it looks like he will not be able to get most of his army out of here. And look, I mean, Ravagers, it's always a bad thing when you're losing Ravagers. That's so much money and gas that you're invested in there. And having that taken out, I think it was a bad move for him to morph that there, but he didn't even seem to quite react in time. Now the remaining roaches are being picked off. And I think this is everything that Stats needs to probably win this game, assuming that the engage goes reasonably well here for Protoss.
Yeah, Stats is just going to power through with a lot of reinforcements. I don't see how Bly could hold this, but maybe with a perfect fight. Yeah. 42 army supply to 61 in Stats' favor. Like, he's Stats as well. Like, he's never really going to overextend, like run into a bunch of corrosive bile. He's going to take his sweet time, land the force fields that he needs to land.
He's coming forward further. This hatchery has gone down. Protoss, there's really a lot of ways that Protoss can try to close this out, but it would not be surprising if he just moved into the second base here instead of trying to take out this new third base just above this. We can see Bly again trying to engage on this, but he's just not getting a favorable position in any one of these fights. Stats continuing to juggle the sentries in and out of the warp prism. I think that's game, Todd.
Stats is just powering through. He's screaming right now. Where is innovation? Send him to me again.
Let me at him. Let me at him, says Stats. There's a Terran somewhere in the back of the Zerg base. and looks like the Rochewarren goes down. And I think we're really just seeing Bly kind of process this loss. There's just nothing else that he can do. GG. Bly got crushed by Stats. Then again, it's kind of hard to not get crushed by Stats, man. You can even see Stats kind of nodded himself like, damn, I'm good.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So
you really think you had a chance?
Thought you had a chance. You thought wrong. Bly, definitely affected by the loss. I don't think the strats he chose were really, bad ones by any measure.
Yeah.
But the Stats was ready. This is something that's funny. That
in second game, I think just counter dropping was just like so obvious. I think after what had happened, and also going for a proxy hatch against a Protoss as solid as Stats, you would have had to be very lucky for this to work.
We are going to go to a short break. We come back, more StarCraft action here at the Intel Extreme Masters.